presentation.
Hello and welcome to Interface. My name is Vuyo Mvoko and I'm your guest presenter for this week's episode. Well, 5 years into the job he was once told he wasn't suited for, Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng has now become the new darling, especially after ruling against the very same person that he was once thought to be too close to for some people's comfort. In this rare, wide-ranging interview with the SABC, Judge Mogoeng takes us back to his very first meeting with President Jacob Zuma, the subsequent onslaught that followed his nomination for the position of Chief Justice, the awkward relationship he would have with his more experienced deputy, Dikgang Moseneke, and what he has done in the 5 years he has been in office to turn around South Africa's courts. Our interview took place in the same week that some of the problems plaguing South African courts were laid bare before the Judicial Service Commission, during interviews that were meant to find fit and proper people to lead some of the country's high courts. I began by asking Chief Justice Mogoeng just how dire the situation is in our courts.
There is a lot that is going well in our courts, but there is also much improvement that requires to be made to ensure that our courts function as well as the public requires of it too. So there is a lot of good that is happening. It's just that good things don't always make news. News are harvested from incidents of dissatisfaction. You don't celebrate that a public office bearer is dressed neatly and immaculately. It is only when he or she chooses to wear rags and report for work without having taken a bath that we report on that appearance. So that's in the nature of things.
What would you say is working? We have had time, I'm sure, to reflect over the past 5 years. What would you say is working very, very well?
Well, let's begin in the court system, that is.
Yes.
Let's begin right at the top. You would find it extremely difficult to report on anything that is not going well, both in terms of the quality of judgments we generate and the time within which cases are finalized at the Constitutional Court. Similarly, you'll find it very difficult to find fault with the quality of judgments and the speed within which judgments are produced by the Supreme Court of Appeal. There was so much wrong with the period within which people who apply for dates on which their cases were to be heard at High Court level would be given dates. Initially, particularly when I took office, you could easily wait for as long as 3 years in bigger divisions to get a date for the hearing of your matter. But now the situation has changed drastically because of the measures that we have put in place, in particular judicial case management that we have so aggressively embarked upon ever since 2011-2012 to date. So there is a lot of improvement that has taken place. Measures for accountability have been put in place, which never used to exist, by the way, in the years gone by. And we are now zooming in on the magistracy, where most of the problems are to be found, to ensure that they are not left out and that our people get served in much the same way as they enjoy much better service at the higher courts level.
Now, when you drew up the norms and standards document, I mean, you drew a lot of criticism and condemnation,
Sure.
Even. Yet, if one listens to you carefully, you're saying that what you've put in place is exactly what was contained in the document that so many people condemned.
Well, I don't even know that it's so many people. I know that colleagues in the Western Cape leveled criticism at the document. I also know that some colleagues in Gauteng leveled criticism at the document. I know also that some colleagues in KwaZulu-Natal leveled criticism at some aspects of the document. But the road shows that I embarked upon with my team moving from one division of the High Court to the other, and the engagement that I also had with the leadership of the magistracy resulted in the unanimous endorsement of the norms and standards. It takes us back to where we began, Mr. Vuyo. People tend to sensationalize whatever mistake they may come across, whatever criticism happens to be leveled at a new measure that is being embarked upon. But how many of those voices, for instance, that responded to the norms and standards with great appreciation and relief that at long last something concrete is being done, did we get to hear about? Similarly, how many of those who leveled criticism against the norms and standards in the public domain reported about the oneness with which the norms and standards were adopted by the heads of courts, both the judges and the magistrates? That was not celebrated. That is the problem. And in the national psyche remains the criticism that was once leveled by the few, accentuated overly, I dare say, as if it was representative of the majority, when in fact it wasn't.
After the break, Judge Mogoeng reflects on the issue of the separation of powers.
News Today takes an in-depth look on news locally, continentally, and globally. We bring the world to your home. We cover all economy news extensively to keep you informed. We are live to break news as and when they happen across the world. We analyze news using experts in all aspects. Make a date with News Today every Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m.
In Africa, technology has created many new ways of doing things.
ICT is an increasingly important part of everybody's life.
It's being used in education, for social media, and now for farming too.
The best thing about internet for a farmer is that we get to share information.
On Network, we give you all the important African technology and social media news. That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, only on SABC News.
Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, we're in conversation with the Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng. What do judges do when one arm of the state, or members of one arm of the state, I can't remember how he put it exactly, either disregard or deliberately ignore the decisions of a court?
Well, it becomes easier to say with certainty that one arm of the state has disregarded a court order when that court order is clear and not open to interpretation.
Unambiguous.
When the court orders say, go to Pof Ader on Friday and deliver school desks, that's clear. But when an order is open to interpretation, what often happens is everybody attaches his or her preferred interpretation to the order and claim that someone else that they have an argument with has not complied with or obeyed the court order. I wish I could find a case specific example, but I don't want to go there. I've got many ringing in my mind, but to avoid attracting comment on what I say from certain quarters, I would rather not. But the bottom line is there are orders that people choose to interpret the way they prefer to interpret them, or the way they wish they had been crafted, and then claim, flowing from their preferred interpretation, that a court order has not been complied with. But there are times when, indeed, court orders are very clear, and we can tell whether they have been complied with or not.
Perhaps without going to individual or very specific cases, what do we do beyond this point, given our most recent experiences, to ensure that we do not fall into that trap?
Well, cast your mind back. I think all South Africans should do likewise, to the 8th of July 2015. On that date, I had convened a meeting of the heads of courts and senior judges to deal with criticism that was then leveled against the judiciary, including elements of non-compliance with court orders. That was followed by the meeting we then asked for with the President and the Executive, which took place on the 29th of August 2015, which resulted in a joint statement by the Executive and the Judiciary, read out by the President, endorsed by me at a press conference, and of course fielding questions from members of the media. One of the issues that was underscored by that joint statement was that court orders will be complied with by the Executive. That's what to do. When we have occasion to be concerned about failure to comply with a court order as the judiciary, the best way to deal with it, and the undertaking that we have cemented now going forward, is that when such an incident has been brought to my attention, I'll seek a meeting with the President, bring it to his attention so that there is compliance, and to the extent that it applies to the legislature, we subsequently, by the way, had a meeting as the heads of the four arms of the state, the President, the Speaker of the National Assembly and Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces and I, to highlight the need to do what the Constitution requires of us to do.
Have you or any senior judge, or you're aware of any, been or ever felt that you are under political pressure to do anything?
It is impossible to be under political pressure to do anything in South Africa. You would really have to be a mistake in terms of judicial appointment to be under pressure. You would really have to be a weak and possibly corrupt judge to feel pressured to do what you ought not to do. And I'll explain why. If there are judges who enjoy security of tenure, they are South African judges. If there are judges who are paid well, they are South African judges. The process that may culminate in the removal of a judge is steeped in so much protection that it is not possible for any individual or group of individuals to remove a judge from office. More importantly, because the initial stages, the sifting stages, if you like, of a process that could culminate in the impeachment of a judge are controlled by the judges themselves. And the Chief Justice is very much central to that process. As if that is not enough, if judges arrive at the conclusion that a particular judge ought to be impeached, it must still secure a 2/3 majority in Parliament, and Parliament must still refer that to the President to authorize the impeachment of a judge. When it comes to benefits, we are the only judges in the whole world who continue to earn their full salary after retirement. And as judges who are in service get their salary raise, you get your salary raise. When you die, your spouse continues to enjoy 2/3 of what you were earning when you were in retirement. So I can't imagine why any judge would succumb to whatever measure of pressure might be brought to bear upon him or her when we are so secure.
After the break, Judge Mogoeng's dinner with Jacob Zuma and all it would later unleash.
Preparing for victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates, and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
The big news is Newsroom.
We also stream live on YouTube.
Whether you're at home, at the office, or at the gym, wherever you are, Newsroom is right there with you. Bringing you all the latest news, updates, sports, weather, and everything in between. Get all the latest news you need on the go via live streaming on our YouTube channel. That's Newsroom, weekdays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
When you were appointed, remember, all sorts of things were said about you. Zuma man, Lekki, conservative. 5 years down the line, how do you think your critics then look at you now?
Well, I think in the first place that there were different kinds of critics. There were those who criticized me because they didn't even want to look at my track record and reflect on whether there was any possibility of anything meaningful ever coming out of me. They were not going to listen to anything. And that is the group that is unlikely to ever change their viewpoint about me. For them, I'll forever be a Lekki, I'll forever be an incompetent person no matter what I do. But I think there are far too many South Africans who relied on the information that was there and reflected on the options that were available to the president and said, but so and so is an obvious choice from where we sit, and justifiably so. I think they've been monitoring me quite closely, and quite a huge number of them have come out in the open and said, you know, we were wrong.
Well, that's what I want to ask, because
this man is not who we thought he was.
One stands out for me, I mean, over the past few days, following, obviously, your delivery of the Nkandla judgment. A lot of people sing your praises, but I was particularly drawn to a headline that read, "In prejudging Mogoeng, we misjudged."
I've seen a number of those, and officials in my office have sent me tweets even of people who had no doubt in their mind that I was just this incompetent lackey, you know, graciously saying we were mistaken, this man is not who we thought he was. But the truth be told, I never sought to convince anybody otherwise. My focus has always been on the fact that I'm privileged to be Chief Justice, and it is a responsibility that I ought to execute in a manner that would redound to the greater good of South Africans. So instead of focusing on criticism one way or the other, I chose not to work hard to seek to attract affirmation or approval. I chose to focus on the responsibility.
But were you aggrieved that some of them were not even prepared to give you a chance?
No. I understood, I empathized, and I forgave. People say people must apologize. I don't need that, because I forgive people in advance. I was telling an official in my office a few minutes ago, I said, look, for the mistakes, for the wrongs that you will do in 3 years to come, you're already forgiven. Because I've realized this thing of getting worried about what people say, this thing of hating people because they criticize you in the most severe way, if you embrace it and harbor grudges, you're actually empowering your detractors to determine whether you're going to be happy, whether you're going to have peace or not. Because we can be as happy as we are with one another, Mr. Mvoko. If there is anybody you hate, that smile will disappear instantly. That's the power that you have given that person to determine when you'll be happy and when you'll be unhappy. So I don't do that. I focus on what I need to do. I respect the fact that people are entitled to their opinions. They don't owe me anything.
Did you have any relationship with the president at the time?
I met the president once before I met him for the second time at the time when he nominated me. It was, I think, June or July 2008, and I reiterate the story. A young man who had been my friend for years from my days as a student at the University of Natal invited me to his house in a village known as Lomanyaning in Mahikeng, because he was the president's friend. Said, this man is coming. I need company. I don't think I can host him all by myself. I reflected on it. You won't believe this. I even asked my pastor that we pray about it. I said, I don't want to go into this thing. I don't want any controversy. Is this what I should go to? And eventually I had absolute peace about it. I met the president for the first time then. He was not yet the president of the country, but the president of the ANC. We had a wonderful discussion.
What did you talk about?
We talked about how delicious goat meat is. He explained to us why. I remember that young man had provided red wine to be taken with meals. He just looked at it. Instead of saying, I don't drink alcohol, he said, you know, when I was 14 years old, that was the president, I saw a man I respected the most, a teacher on a Sunday, on a hill at a downward slope, rolling like this wearing a white shirt. And I realized that he was rolling because he was under the influence of liquor. Secondly, I went to Umlazi and saw somebody kill another with a knife because they were both under the influence of liquor. He said, I made a vow, I will not drink liquor. So we talked about liquor and its impact on people's life. I don't remember what else we talked about, but general conversation of people who have never seen each other before.
And that was the last time you spoke to him?
That was the last time I spoke. There was a particular line that was sought to be taught, a particular line that was sought to be perpetuated, just to cement that. You know, when the story was being made out that I wanted to evangelize in the judges, that I had forced judges to attend, I think it was not Miles Monroe, John Maxwell's conference, which was not even attended by a single judge, by the way. The heads of courts themselves convened a meeting and issued a statement to say the Chief Justice could not have and did not force us to attend any meeting. That's why we did not attend. What did the media say? Said he did. They are just covering up. So that is the stereotyping of the time. And I understand.
Well, a lot was also said at the time about your relationship with your deputy.
Yes.
That there were tensions between the two of you.
Yes. Well, I think it is fair to say, like any other person, he was disappointed. You and I would have been disappointed had we been in his position. But he and I connected with this one key reality, and that is, we are at the helm of the judiciary of South Africa not to serve ourselves, but to serve the nation. He and I arrived at the conclusion that it's important that we bury our differences and focus on what matters the most for the nation of South Africa. As mature adults and as leaders, we've been able to prioritize what needs to be prioritized, and we have built a friendly relationship. By the way, not just with him, but with all my colleagues at the Constitutional Court and all my colleagues around the country. It doesn't take much effort to realize that judges now support me, the magistrates now support and recognize me as their leader.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.